Hello and welcome to HorsePlayer Happy Hour. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatale, coming to you a few miles away from the Brooklyn Bunker. I'm in Oban, or very near Oban, in Scotland, on the west coast. Had a fun few days up on the Isle of Skye, now headed back southward, but thrilled to be with you for this HorsePlayer Happy Hour edition, a special edition. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to be previewing Breeders' Cup, Win and You're in action. We're going to be talking to some of the female competitors we know are chasing the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge this year. We'll also be covering live racing from Belmont. I'm going to bring him in for a minute here, the co-host of this program, but then we're going to, the way our program works out today, he's here just for a flash, and then he'll be back for a much longer stint. He is Jonathon Kinchen. What's up, JK?
BTF, what's going on? You said a couple miles away. I was like, whoa, I think kilometers, isn't it?
And a few thousand of them. But yes, it's been a fun week. Ascot was a blast. Scotland's been great. Touring around, seeing some of the most beautiful places in the world, seeing some horses, but not race horses, which is, of course, always a little bit disappointing. There is racing in Skye, but it doesn't intersect neatly with the far-flung whiskey regions. So I've got to work on that. At some point, I'll plan a racing and whiskey trip. But before we send you to the green room and bring in our first guest, JK, just curious how you're doing, what's been going on there in New York. I know this Belmont card today wasn't all we dreamed of with 3 of the 4 races we're covering going into off the turf territory. But have you been following what's been? Give us the latest.
Yeah, look, it's been hot as heck in the city, and look, there's someone from Texas, like hot.
It means something when you say that.
Yeah, but it's different here. It's because the hot here comes with smells that no one warned me about. And so that's an interesting part of it, but it's been good. We got some fun racing this weekend. I'll be at Aqueduct, and then we got the 4th of July kind of card and weekend or week or whatever you want to call it at Aqueduct, at Belmont at Aqueduct, and then we're back.
Stars and Stripes, right? Aren't they still using that branding, the Stars and Stripes Racing Festival?
I think so.
Yes, no, maybe so.
I think so. And then
I think you would have heard that 86 times on your show if they were still using it. Maybe they've moved on. I always like that branding personally. Definitely some Breeders' Cup clues going to be on offer that weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you get the Belmont Derby, the Belmont Oaks, a lot of stuff going on over at Aqueduct. So that'll be fun. So yeah, just kind of calm before the storm, right? That is Saratoga in those 8 weeks, and it just feels weird because we were just there, but then we're going back. So. My brain and body are trying to get adjusted.
Make sense of it. All right, go make yourself a cup of tea, and we'll bring you back in a minute. And Craig, we discussed how we're going to handle this bit, so I'll wait for the graphics to appear correctly, and then I will introduce our next guest. BCBC Diaries, it's episode number 2. Today, we're putting a focus on some of the female players who are going to be chasing BCBC glory. Our first guest in that regard is a woman who's made quite a splash on the contest scene. She's going to tell us a little bit about her history in the BCBC. But if you've been following contests over the last few years, you've seen the name Alexa Zep, and she's here with us now. Alexa, how are things?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
Things are very good. Let's start with that first question about your history in the BCBC. This is an event you have qualified for in the past. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. I'm like trying to think how many times I've played in it. I know 4. I think probably, all those years with COVID kind of ran together a little bit when we were playing online in our homes. But I know I played out at Santa Anita and out at Kinchen as well. I did not play this very last year because I was covering it for America's Best Racing, and it was just like too much to juggle doing the coverage and playing. But I was there.
You're preaching to the choir with that one. I know exactly what that challenge is like. What is it about the BCBC that makes it a goal worth chasing, in your opinion?
I mean, it's the brass ring. Like, it's the biggest prize pool. It's what isn't? Why wouldn't you chase it? You know what I mean? What if the winner of this last year walked out with over $600,000? I mean,
our man Sean Gorman. Sean will be a guest. His record-breaking performance there. We're going to have him as a guest on the show. We're going to follow his season along with him. Give us a little bit of history about yourself, Alexa. Where do you live? What do you do for a living? And if you don't mind sharing your age.
Yeah, I am. I just turned 29 a couple weeks ago. So it's my birthday month, right? All us Geminis love June. No, but I started in tournaments, I want to say 7 years ago now. And that was my introduction to horse racing completely, was tournament play as a +1. And I decided I just really loved it, wanted to learn how to do it and compete myself. So started doing it, got pretty good at it. And everything's just taken off from there. So now I moved to Kentucky last year to be closer to the industry because I work for the Daily Racing Forum. I have my own racing syndicate and business, buying and managing horses for investors. I'm a part of the Horse Racing Women's Summit. So my whole life is just about horse racing. So I moved here to be close to it.
I love to hear that. What, in your opinion, can we do to make handicapping contests more appealing to women? And you're sort of like the double whammy. Speaking of holy grails, double whammy, holy grail. You're female and you're young. We need more people like you. What could be done?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is just exposure. Like, I don't think a lot of people know about the tournaments and know about it. And wow, you put me on the spot here. It's really tough. I think
you've already given me an idea. If you want me to run off for a little bit while you think about the question a little bit more, we should do a tie-in with the Horse Racing Women's Summit. This is an event.
Great idea. Yeah,
we've supported from the get-go, and I think your answer is right. Like, why aren't more women involved? Well, maybe they don't know about it. And
know about it. It feels like a boys' club a little bit. Like, even though there are some of us there, I think at NHC there were only 35 women out of the 600 players or something. So, that's not great. That's not enough. But we've talked at the Women's Summit about doing tournaments, and we did a little mini tournament. I went out to Del Mar last year to teach a women's handicapping luncheon, and we did a tournament at the end of it, and everybody loved it. I mean, it was so much fun. Everybody super competitive and got into it, and I think they would do it more if more people knew about it.
It's a fun way to compete. And what I think might particularly, and you tell me if I'm off on a limb here that's going to fall off, but what might really help is, I think handicapping contests in general, the vibe is you obviously are rooting for yourself. You're competitive. You want to win. But then if you're not going to win, you want somebody else to win. And I feel like that collegiality amidst the competition might play pretty well to a female audience who I don't think I'm saying anything sexist when I say that. I think women.
No, I don't think so. I think I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman. I think everyone loves community and everybody loves friendships and meeting people and being around other people that share a similar passion. So that's really what draws me to the tournament world. I play more tournaments than I bet at the window, if I'm being honest with you, because it's just fun to be competitive and it's fun to know who you're playing against. And, text your buddy, beat you today. So yeah, I think tournaments are a really great space.
I got one more question for you. We're going to check in with you throughout the season also. We've got our regular players we're going to be following every week. We're kind of breaking format here in this second show by bringing in some new blood, but I really did want to address this topic early on in the series. I would love to hear your personal plan for how to qualify this year. How much thought have you put into it? What are you planning on doing to get to that goal?
I need to get my act together is what I need to do. So I've taken on a lot in the last year. I started working at the Daily Racing Forum. I started doing coverage for America's Best Racing as well. It's just been a lot. And moving here, and tournaments took a back seat after NHC this year for sure. I really haven't played in hardly any. I started again this week because I am going this weekend to the Hawthorne Invitational.
Nice.
I'm in Chicago. Yeah. So I'll be driving out tomorrow night. So my plan is to win it all this weekend and be done with it. And not have to worry about it the rest of the year. So I guess check back with me next week. If stuff goes south and I don't qualify, then I'll need to make a better plan.
We want to get you involved in our HorsePlayer Happy Hour games too. With
I did that last year.
Added at no cost to players. Great opportunity. Speaking of the Hawthorne contest, one of our other guests a little bit later is going to be going into detail on that, but I'll give it the extra plug here and say that folks can watch Alexa and the rest of this championship lineup that is going to be assembled in Chicago on the Hawthorne YouTube channel. I believe that's the best place. Emily will give us all the details later, but is that your understanding?
Yeah, I think we're streaming on YouTube. I know a few years ago it was televised, but I think the last few years it's been streamed on YouTube, and I've played in it. I think this is the third time I've played in the tournament. It's really fun. There's around 55, I think, of us there that were invited to participate, and just, swinging all day long trying to take home the grand prize. So it should be really fun.
Godspeed to you out there, Alexa. We'll be talking soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, Alexa Zep competing in that Hawthorne Invitational. We'll see how she and the rest of those players get on. I'm sure we'll have some coverage of the aftermath of that as well as part of our partnership with our great friends at Hawthorne, one of whom we'll be hearing from later. Let's bring Mr. Kinchen in, and let's see if it's time to maybe go to this race at the Big A, because I think they must be getting close to going to post. Did you have a chance to look at this one? Could you give us one of your patented Instacap winners? You only have the 5 to choose from, JK.
Yeah, it's a much easier. And then see, there's a late scratch right of the 2. Is that what it said?
Looked like it.
Yeah. This one to me is the entry's probably pretty heavy. My bad. I got too many windows open here. We're off.
We're going to let you punt on this one, JK, because they are in the gate, and we are going to go to New York with the call here. We should be playing that call, Craig, if we can. Didn't realize it was on. Water. Thank you. Because this water is terrible. Works for me at 5 to 2, getting the job done over the big favorite there. And every point counts in a tournament like this, especially with these fields that got cut up pretty badly as time went along. When we're going to wait for that race to be official, we're going to look at the leaderboard. Haven't even checked yet to see what kind of participation we got in this week's HorsePlayer Happy Hour event. No point in popping it up there yet, Craig. Let's wait for this race to go official, and then we'll do it. We'll do it once. But let me just take this opportunity to give folks the lowdown. This is a live stream, live racing show, 4 to 6 every Thursday. They're going to get a lot better. JK alluded to the summer meets. These shows will be, not that they're bad now, but the live racing element is going to be so much better when what we're going to try to do is do the whole contest during this 2-hour span between Del Mar and Saratoga. These first few weeks, we've been a little handcuffed with Naira not running the 1 week, and then obviously, Santa Anita getting to their closing weekend. But what's going to happen eventually is the whole contest is going to take place. You play at horseplayers.com, and it's the best deal out there. $20 to play. The house cut goes to Thoroughbred Aftercare, our friends at the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and also Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga. And then, best of all, 3 ways to win your way in to the NHC. One is that you can qualify. This $20, if you win, will get you into a $189 qualifier. This is a feeder. That's a qualifier. The difference being a feeder gets you into a qualifying event. Qualifier gets you to the big prize, in this case, a $10,000 BCBC seat. And then you also, though, are going to be participating in this interconnected series of contests. You only have to play 1 week to participate in the prize pool. This isn't onerous because it's only I think it's the top 7 scores that count throughout our 15 weeks. Yes, to win the whole thing, you're going to probably have to play, 10 times realistically. But all you have to do, there's two separate prizes. One is the overall tour winner. The other is our playoff system. And for our playoff system, if you finish in the top 2 any week, or you're one of the top tour point finishers throughout the year, 80 people go into a contest to win a $10,000 seat. And JK, I know one of the things you like about that is this idea of the cut line that we've put in there, where 80 goes to 40, and then the next week 40 go down to 20, 20 go down to 10 who compete at the final table. What is it you as a tournament player find advantageous about the cut lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to reward consistency over, just that one great day, right? Someone could have had an outstanding year or an outstanding run of just being consistent, showing up, getting top 10 scores, getting scores, so on and so forth. I don't think you necessarily want to punish someone who is great 27 times and on the 28th they just have a bad day. I don't think you necessarily want to reward that one person who's got a great day. Let's leave the great day luck for the BCBC itself, right? When all that money's on the line, when those championship races are going on, I've got no problem with letting that happen on that day. But for qualifications and leading up to it, let's look for consistency.
Yeah, to me, it's about the luck to skill ratio, and look, obviously it takes skill to find cap horses, obviously, but I like the idea that somebody who's just going out there and making good decisions and playing the right kind of horses and finding winners and putting points up on the scoreboard isn't going to necessarily get pushed out of the frame by somebody who just, happened to hit a couple of cappers in a day, only picking horses at 15 to 1 and over, etc. I mean, look, that's a valid strategy, and there's loads of contests that reward it. Many of them are right at our partner site, horseplayers.com. But we want to do something a little different, and this is the format that we came up with. Breeders' Cup win, and you're in action this Saturday at Churchill Downs. It's the Stephen Foster. JK, very curious to get your take on this Grade 1 race that will offer an automatic berth into the BCBC. Who did you come up with in here, and who do you think the main contenders are?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about a horse by the name of Disarm. Disarm was a horse that was very, very, very talented as a 3-year-old, made a lot of noise, ran extremely well in the Travers, but as a horse that kind of went to the sidelines after that. Got some time to grow up a little bit. I'm not comparing this horse to a stablemate, a similarly owned horse, but Gunrunner, right? Gunrunner was really good as a 3-year-old, but it's his 4-year-old years when he really turned into being the monster that he was. Frosted, another great example of a horse that was able to grow up. National Treasure, a horse that's on the scene this year that'd be looking for the Breeders' Cup Classic, who really was allowed to grow up. To me, Disarm is one of those horses. He came back in his last race and got a very low speed figure, but it was an absolute crawl at the early portions of that race. And if you've listened to any of our stuff before, you've probably heard me make my Usain Bolt analogy. And with the Olympics right around the corner, what better analogy than that? If Usain were to walk away from the gate for the first 10 meters and then sprint the best 90 meters of his life, he's never going to have that fast final time that represents how well he actually ran. I think the same thing can be said in horse racing. Disarm basically walked the first part of the race, sprinted home. The final number is not going to be that fast, but you look at those internal fractions for a horse who's coming in off of a 266-day break. I thought Disarm ran extremely well, and I'm extremely excited at the opportunity to bet him in the Stephen Foster.
Let's talk about a couple of the other favorites here, JK, while we're on the topic of this Breeders' Cup win and you're in race. First Mission, the 2-runner, installed as the 6-5 favorite. This horse was so impressive in the Ali Sheba, in the slop on Derby weekend, winning by 4. And you mentioned the weaker speed figure Disarm earned, and you explained why. Well, this was a really terrific effort, speed figure wise. Came up a 129 raw on the Timeform US figure scale. How serious of a contender is this horse? And do you take that figure with a little bit of a grain of salt from First Mission simply because it was earned in the slop?
I mean, look, you always want to take those things into consideration, but First Mission has shown me for over a couple of years now how serious of a racehorse he is. He's trained by Brad Cox, ridden by Florent Giroux, so there's no reason to have any issues with him as an individual. The biggest thing that I see as it pertains to First Mission is going to be his price, right? If we're talking about this from a fan standpoint, yeah, absolutely. He's one that you'd want to watch and one that could win this Stephen Foster and go on to make some noise in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But as far as this race is concerned, and this being a betting game, and we're all looking for horses we want to wager on, I just think there's some more interesting horses. I wouldn't want to get beat any multi-race wagers by First Mission. I think he's probably the most talented horse in the race, but I just think he's going to be a little bit too short of a price for me to get excited about from a betting standpoint.
How about number 9, Skippy Longstocking? This is another one sure to be heavy in the betting. Last seen at Oaklawn Park, winning the Grade 2. Saffie Joseph Jr. doing very well, especially around Churchill right now. A contender or pretender for this horse?
I mean, he's definitely a contender, right? Skippy Longstocking's been kind of showing up and dancing all the dances. The problem I have with him is he just seems to be kind of a cut below these Grade 1 types, right? He'll show up in some lower level graded stakes. He'll make some noise. He'll take some money in some of the Grade 1s, but he's just not out there winning a lot of these types of races. And with horses like First Mission and what I expect, the step forward I expect from Disarm, I just think he might be a little bit on the outside looking in. I wouldn't necessarily talk anyone off of Skippy Longstocking. I just think that he's probably a cut below the top tier that you're going to see in this Grade 1 Stephen Foster.
We've talked about the top of the market. Is there anything in here at a bigger price, JK, you might be having on some of your multi-race tickets, or at least to sneak in to the lower rungs of a bet like the trifecta?
Well, not the largest price in the world, but the number 7, 6-1 King's Barnes is a horse I thought was a little bit interesting. Same idea with Disarm, right? He kind of was a talented 3-year-old who had some nice speed figures as a 3-year-old, but then kind of able to grow up as a 4-year-old. And the Ben Ali, I thought he ran well that day and got a nice number. Got a little bit of a pace to close into, but he was close enough that I won't knock him for that. And then he came back in the Pimlico Special, the race that's traditionally the night before the Preakness, going 1 mile and 3/16, the same distance as the Preakness, and ran well enough that day as well. I don't want to knock King's Barnes. I think he's definitely one that could take another step forward. I find him to be a little bit more attractive from a betting proposition than First Mission and or Skippy Longstocking. But I'm definitely going to go with Disarm as the 3-year-old turning 4 angle that I'm looking to take advantage of.
It's a good angle, and from a value point of view, some of the best opportunities are when you can find a reason you think the speed figure is low. You gave us your rationale for that one. Last question for you on the Stephen Foster, JK. What about like a betting strategy? Is this one you're interested more in attacking horizontally? Do you think Disarm will be enough value, 6-1 on the morning line, that you could get interested on the win end? How do you think you'll be playing?
Yeah, I think this is a great example. I think Duke Matisse has talked about it. Professional horse player Duke Matisse has talked about it on these airwaves. A strategy that you can use for a horse like Disarm is you can bet him to win. You can bet exactas with the logical horses, King's Barnes, Skippy Longstocking, First Mission, and then have Disarm in second. And then you can do the same thing by playing trifectas with Disarm in third. It's kind of a way to tier those opinions by, it's kind of a, I like to call it kind of a sexier way to bet a horse to show, with a lot more upside, saying you need him to run well, run in the money. I think Disarm will do that, and I think the price will be right to take advantage of a strategy like this.
Love that strategy. Exacta as place, Mike Maloney calls it, and you're talking about trifecta as show. Same idea. It's a way of, it's a type of hedge, but it's so much smarter than your average hedge, because it does two things. It costs less than, say, making a big place or show bet to get a comparable amount, and it increases your upside. So a really good betting strategy, not just for the Stephen Foster Breeders' Cup win in your in race, but for races down the line. JK, appreciate you coming on and talking all about the Stephen Foster. Folks who are interested in more coverage for Stephen Foster Day, we've got you covered. Full card audio show with Nick Tamaro. You're going to find that wherever you get your podcasts under the In the Money Players Podcast banner. And then if you're sticking around for playing Churchill on Sunday, JK is going to be around with an episode of Baby Talk, looking at some of those 2-year-old stakes. Definitely looking forward to that. All right, good stuff, JK. We got that preview taken care of. Appreciate that very much. The win and you're in stuff gets very interesting. I had a lot of fun. I considered doing it on this show, but the timing was such that I ended up doing it audio only with Callum Hellawell going over the Breeders' Cup win and you're in races from Royal Ascot. So folks can find that wherever they get their pods as well. How much were you paying attention to Ascot this year? Did you have any thoughts? You know, it's always interesting when the ground is like this at Ascot, when it's American style, firm ground, firm-ish ground. I always think there's more of a chance for a link between the two events. Curious how much of it you saw, or if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I wasn't as plugged in as I have been in the past. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's one of my favorite things to do during Ascot is quality racing at 9:30 in the morning. One thing I do honestly think that it is a trick that we miss in this country. You know, I'm not that they do it over there. Obviously, we're just the time difference. But I do think there's a market for quality racing in the morning here. We just don't ever have it. So when we do have it, like Royal Ascot, it's a lot of fun. I wasn't as fully plugged in. I was all over the place. Austin was in town, so I didn't get to be as involved. The other thing that really draws me in when it comes to Ascot is when some of our runners go over there. Some of our, high quality, exciting, older, even some of the special 2-year-olds really sucks me in. And there wasn't one that I was really following this year. I know we sent some over, but nothing that really grabbed my full attention to demand that I was fully engaged. But I watched a few races on the subway, which was fun.
Gabaldon was terrific for the USA team. I mean, really did everything but win. And I wonder, I don't mean to knock the guy. He did a great job, Jaramillo did, getting Gabaldon away from there. But he just set sail a little early, given that uphill finish, even though it's a 5-furlong race. Anyway, we'll never know. Took a perfectly timed ride by Jamie Spencer to get the job done. But this is the second year in a row we've seen those Royal Palm juvenile races produce a serious performance at Ascot. Of course, Crimson Advocate last year, and then Gabaldon coming right back this year and almost getting the job done. We want to thank everybody out there watching. Rob Capalbo enjoyed the smelly heat comment. Oscar and Whale are in the comments. We'll say hi to them. Oh, we have one from our correspondent in San Diego. Andrew Brown wants to know about the best scotch I've had so far. I think my favorite was and I have a bunch more distilleries to hit whilst here, but on the Isle of Skye yesterday at Talisker, there was a distillery only pour of a 27-year-old from them that was just magnificent. Just one of those whiskeys that just made you, slow down and take notice. And I had a 30 there as well, which was phenomenal. But there was something about the unique character of the 27 that I really liked. Talisker, really fun place to drink whiskey. They've got that maritime quality, but a lot else going on in the house character with the smoke from the peat and then pulling in different fun, fruity flavors as well. It was really great. There will definitely be some Talisker making its home with me, though. I can't afford the 27 or the 30 by the bottle, so we'll stick to 1 dram a year or 1 dram every time I make it to the Isle of Skye every, 5 yeyears or so. But good question, Andrew. Appreciate that. What have you been drinking, JK? It's rare that we see you for a horse player happy hour where you don't have a drink in your hand. You're teetotaling now?
No. Honestly, I just felt like, based on a couple of things that are going to happen here this evening in 3 hours, 4 hours or so, I didn't want to be too banged up. I didn't want to start crying in depression.
I don't even know what you're referring to. Should I know what you're referring to?
Yeah. Well, you're in a civilized country right now, so you're not aware of the debate tonight.
Oh, the debate. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
I hear you completely. Yeah, I'll be very happy to be asleep during that.
But no, what have I been doing? Well, the first thing is hanging out in Manhattan. I'm trying to find, in Saratoga, I've got the hazy IPA I like. When down in Austin, I got the local hazy IPAs I like. I don't like any like the mass produced hazy IPAs, like the whatever they're called, the Goose Island. I don't like all those. So I'm trying to find my local one. So I'm having fun doing that. Just kind of searching for those.
Other half,
and
other half are the kings of the hazy style. If you can,
oh, trust me, if you take the Amtrak, you know a little bit about that. They got in Moynihan, they got the little, you can grab a 4-pack for the train ride up.
Yes.
So that's a Saratoga hack people should be aware of.
Oh, definitely. You can drink on the train. It's good. Speaking of Saratoga and hazy beer, and Rob will appreciate this. Yeah, Rob, what else should I tip him for New York hazies? I mean, anything Wild East makes is good, but you're unlikely to see that in can around. But what I was going to say about Saratoga and hazy beer, I don't know when it's going to happen. It looks like construction's barely begun, but Treehouse, one of the kings of hazy from New England, having an outpost in Saratoga. That's potentially game changing for the beer lovers up there. What we have no beer affiliations we can plug. What is your Saratoga go to? You still a Druthers man?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Druthers is great, but it's not really Saratoga. I think it's Vermont, but they just have it in Saratoga. A lot of places. Fiddlehead.
Sure.
Yep. Fiddlehead works
They're
well.
well distributed there, but that is a Vermont classic. Rob mentions Fidens. That's a good one, and he's down with our idea about Treehouse getting there as well. All right, we've got 3 races left at Belmont. Let's take a look at where we are on this weekly leaderboard and see how many people played. We'll really get to see how many people love us when you have the off the turf situation like this. We didn't take, 166 is darn respectable. Thanks to everybody out there for supporting this event. I thought we could be like 140 this week just because the weather did not cooperate. Christopher Andrews. Is there any chance in the world that's Chris Andrews from Las Vegas? That would be cool if he was involved in HorsePlayer Happy Hour. He is a horse player. Jason Phillips, In the Money affiliated Michael Domable, Dan Brockman, Wayne Tam, Jonathon Cummings, a double entry from Jeff Van Dree, who's really going for the gusto here with the double entries the same, which makes sense if you're chasing tour points here. An aggressive strategy, but one that could easily make sense. Mark Wilgard, Mike Saletta, Julie Leboyko, Justin Christine, more In the Money affiliated people, and then other regulars too. Sean O'Malley, David. Okay. Let's see.
There's only one name. There's only one name that matters.
And I see who's below him. But
yeah, you go first. You go first.
This is so terrible. Oh, he told me last week. David, you're going to be so mad at me.
Is it not Piers?
Piers? Piers. I think it's Piers. Is it Piers, David? It's Piers or Piers, but I think it's Piers. I think he's watching too. So he'll hit us up in the comments soon. This is just, I'm so sorry. I'm usually good at this game. It's a mental block, I swear. John Camardo's done stuff with us, Bob Montgomery, and there he is, the man in black himself, James Henry, getting involved in HorsePlayer Happy Hour. Have you spoken to him at all lately, JK?
I saw him at the Breeders' Cup for the first time since COVID. Before COVID, I was in Santa Anita, March of 2020, which everyone remembers. Within weeks, we were all locked down. So I was there. I saw Jazzy JH then. And then I did not see him until Breeders' Cup. So almost 3 years, which was a long time. To see a jazz man.
Yeah, we had a fun time in the suites at Santa Anita one day. He is a former, what do they call that event? HorsePlayer World Series champion, a regular in all the Santa Anita contests. It's great to see the blend of familiar and unfamiliar names that come out for HorsePlayers Happy Hour. And yeah, thanks to everybody for making these events a success. I didn't prep you for this, Craig, and don't worry if you can't, but there might be like a HorsePlayers Happy Hour page on the BCBC site that has the leaderboard. It's only 2 weeks. Just ignore this if you can't be bothered or can't find it. But if you see the leaderboard, I do think we've had a couple of people get points each of the first 2 weeks. So it wouldn't be a terrible idea to check in on that. Obviously, that becomes a lot more relevant as the year goes on. But it's a fun little storyline potentially to follow if that turns up. But Craig, do not worry if it ain't there. Oh, looks like he found it. And let's see what we got here. I can't read that. But you can probably read it at home. It looks like Anthony Spinazzola is with 1-8. Oh, that's it. That's it. We got 2 players at 160 there. Spinazzola and Massian, I think it is. Sean O'Malley, who's doing well today. Justin Christine doing well today. Chris Couples, Michael Saletta doing well today. Domable doing well today. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. Andrew Uretsky, Jackson Muniz, one of the players that we're following on the BCBC Diaries show. Derek Don Marquardt, Devin Oman, William McMillan, Christopher Olson, and James Millar, another in the money person. Then we'll throw in David Kaplan too, rounding out the top 10. Another player who's had plenty of success. I think he might have been a Horse Player World Series winner as well at one point. So we're getting some people with some real contest success. Oh, this is a good beer tip, actually. Rob Capalbo mentioning Unified in Malta, which is a place I like. That's right next to the Saratoga Ninja Lab. Have you ever been to that little park there? Didn't you and Austin go there a few times back in the day?
Yeah. We went there with the pair bear too.
Yeah, great spot. Funny enough, Dan, I'll just throw this out there just in case, because you never know. Dan from the Saratoga Ninja Lab is trying to rent a house in a great location in Saratoga. If you're still looking for something, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with him. It's a whole meat rental. I assume he'd rent it for partial if he can't rent it for the whole, but especially if you want whole meat rental in a great location, reach out to me through the contact page over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Looks like they're on the track for this next race at Belmont at the Big A. Hopefully we can get our ducks in a row here, JK, and you can give the people a winner.
Yeah, I mean, these are my least favorite types of races, right? These maiden 40s or what, this is a 30. I'm always looking for maiden special weights, show talent, dropping. The horses that have 7 tries going maiden 30 or maiden 40, or have been running maiden 30, maiden 40, haven't really done much running. Man, they don't really do much for me. And the only one in here that I thought showed that was the 2 on the ledge for Michelle Nevin. This horse has shown some ability, showed some speed. And the one thing I will say about this horse is that there is tactical speed. Now, the horse has been third, and second. A lot of people will say, oh, that, feels like whatever that saying is, oh, it's a bridesmaid. Yeah, that's fine. But
sometimes.
But the thing about that is, and something that kind of a new thing I feel like I've been catching, is that if you are running second and third a lot, and you're 10-1 and 8-1 and 6-1 and 6-1, I'm not mad at you about that. Right. I'm mad at you when you're running second and third when you're 4-5. That's when I want to start making fun of you, saying that you don't want to win, right? Like I don't see the point in doing it when horses aren't being bet. And On the Ledge has shown a lot of talent. Has shown some speed. Just hasn't been able to finish the races against a maiden special weight. This is a light group to me. There's nothing in here that really scares me from a maiden claiming standpoint. And so I would have no problem using the 2 in here. And that 4-5 you're getting on the board, although it's a big full field and they're maiden claimers and you're thinking, oh, 4-5, that's too short for a horse who's been running third a lot. I'd take the 4-5 right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it closes here or possibly even a little bit closer. There's nothing else in here to me.
The old school angle that reflects what you're saying, JK, is the new low level. I used to write that in the DRF. Forget exactly where that got picked up from. Maybe Kramer, maybe James Quinn, somebody like old school but creative. And I'd write the NLL for a horse because it's amazing how much it can wake them up. And I love that point that you make. I think a very underrated tool in understanding horse racing is looking at what odds the horse was in its previous starts. It can really give you a lot of different perspectives. It doesn't always mean the same thing, but it can help you fill in the gaps of the story that I know you and I like to try to tell ourselves when we follow these horses through. But let me ask you this. So you mentioned you don't like this type of race, but you think this is an okay price for this type of race. But how would that change how you approach your bets? Would your inclination be to just hold your nose and bet it as if it was a type of race that you loved because you think the value is there? Would you try ideally to bet less in a sequence that had a race like this as opposed to an all grade 1 Breeders' Cup type pick 6? How do you describe how the level of the race changes your approach to gambling?
Well, I mean, it all depends. I'm a sequence person. I'm a multi-race player. And even before, when I was a heavy contest player, it's still a sequence, right? It's still, do you like the sequence? So, I mean, look, you gotta take what the card deals you. And at Saratoga, they always end with races like this, even if you have a darn grade 1 before it. So, no, I just think you deal with what you have to deal with based on the opinion that you have. I think if it's a situation where, I love an 8-to-1 shot in the Travers, and the last race on the card is this. I don't think they usually end Travers Day with a maiden 40, but let's just for an example. And I love an 8-to-1 shot. I'm not going to be ice cold to this 2 here. Right. I'm going to single press the 2, but I'm also going to use some other creative ideas on a big day with big pools. Now, if this is a Thursday at Saratoga, and it's a bunch of allowance races, and I'm just kind of playing the play or a little bit of action here, and I don't have any like really over the top strong opinions, and I've got no problem letting this be the spot in the sequence where I take a stand and pick up a bunch of equity. So I've got no problem with that. But I do want to, this comment right here is not correct. You can do whatever it is that you want to do if you want to do it. Now, you don't have to.
Larry's next comment suggests betting the horse, but in the try or the super. Maybe he means you can't bet the chalk to win at 4 to 5. Yeah, I wouldn't be in a hurry to bet this horse to win at 4 to 5 either. So I'm not dissimilar from Larry here.
But you can, if you believe that the 4 to 5 is good value. It doesn't matter if it's cockroaches running around a coffee table. If you feel like you have an edge with your opinion, then you can take 4 to 5. It doesn't. I'll just say this: steadfast rules and wagering of absolutes, I think, is a mistake. I always bet this. I can't ever bet that. I think those are mistakes.
I love this. JK has moved to New York City. Within 35 minutes here, we've had an analogy about garbage, and now he's talking about cockroaches. This is great, folks. He's clearly getting the most out of his New York City living experience.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll be curious to see what happens with this price. I wouldn't be shocked if, like you said, this even ticks in. But
so here's the thing, okay? The 1. I do not want the 1. Have no need for the 1. Sure, the 3 could beat me. The 4 could win. But golly, do you really want that horse? Sure. The 3 and the 4 could beat me. I don't need the 5. I don't need any of the firsters. Don't need the 7. I guess the 8 could win. So 3, 4, 8, and I don't need anyone else in here. And the prices on those horses, 3, 4, and 8, the prices went away. But so the point was lost. But basically, the alternatives don't seem that attractive to me. And I feel like the 2 has a significant edge from a speed standpoint. The way I see this race, I think the 2 is going to pop away from there and be 3 in front before the rest of them realize there's a race happening, and they'll go on.
Yeah, he was talking more about win betting, it sounds like. Chris made a point about betting 500 on an even money shot. What level was that at, Chris? Let us know. Let us know how you're playing these races, not just this one, but the ones going forward as we head to New York for the call, maybe, hopefully, probably.
And now we do see a horse opening the front of the gate here.
Almost.
And now backing out is Cash or Chocolate. So stand by.
We have a spammer in the comments. You gotta love that.
Cash or Chocolate going right back in. Closing the front of the gate.
Good job by the gate crew there.
Set. And they're off. Cash
Not
or
the
Chocolate
best break for the 2, but recovered quickly.
Handstand Disco, but is right at the back of the group. On the ledge, right out towards the front in the purple cap, but a host of pursuers. They are 5 across the racetrack. Braca's joining them 2 wide. 3 wide, that's Spoofy. 4 wide is going to be very stormy, and U Butte is looking to tuck in. Doesn't want to be 5 wide up the backstretch as they move towards that far turn. At the rail, that's Perfect Outcome, who's now in the 6th position with less than 4 furlongs to go. They're followed by Wisecracker. It's a very strung out field as they are about 20 lengths from front to last. Towards the back end of the field comes Can't Stand Disco. Second to last is a shoved along Stanley Ruff, is just not making up ground right now. And Cash or Chocolate far, far back. 22.55 for the opening quarter mile. The favorite is in front. On the ledge is still up by a half length. It's On the Ledge who brings them to the top of the stretch and is trying to kick away from this very strong outfield. Braca continues to give chase, but is now losing that battle, as still opening up. It's On the Ledge. On the Ledge is doing it very easily. Not much running from back into the field. On the Ledge is going to run like a 4 to 5 shot should and win this one easily. Braca is trying to hold on for second. Late run here, very stormy and also Wisecracker, but On the Ledge much the best. On the Ledge wins it. That was Braca holding on for second.
4 to 5 looked like 1 to 5 in that case. Easiest of winners, even without the smoothest break there. Yeah, the money was really never in doubt. What was third? Was it one of the no hoper theoreticals, or did the no? I think the 5 came and ran down the 60 to 1 shot. Or it would have been interesting to see what those tries paid. But yeah, not one. I was almost gonna say not one that's gonna have a big impact in the contest. But in this format, where you want to be in the top 10% to move on to the qualifier on Saturday. Oh no, it was. I take it back. Braca, who you gave a good shout to, that was one of the horses you said could run in underneath 13, and it was Very Stormy that hangs on for third at 34 to 1. This is going to be a nice try if you were clever enough to come up with that one. Wow. So yeah, maybe lots of different points to pick up on there potentially. But we'll see what happens. Braca could get some meaningful points in the contest too for folks. What do you do in a pick and pray format, JK, like that in a contest like this? Would you just take the 4 to 5 and just figure maybe it pays better in the contest because so many people won't take it reflexively?
Yeah, but I've always said in these contests you have to play what you like, because taking the 4 to 5 there allows you to not have to reach for 7 to 1s later, where you could play the 4 to 1 that you like with a horse like that. It makes the difference, because a lot of times, think about it. How many times you've played in contests, or people that are listening, you played in contests, and going into the last race, you can't win because someone in front of you has the same horse you have. Well, if you took the 4 to 5 shot that won by 8 for fun earlier in the card, now you're ahead of that person, and now you are in position with that horse at the end where he can't beat you or she can't beat you. So yeah, I feel like if I can't take this horse because they're the favorite. I can't bet this horse because you can do whatever you want if you believe that was going to be the outcome. Well, I didn't think the horse was going to win by 8, right? But I felt very confident the 2 was going to win that race. Then you can absolutely bet $100 to win on a horse that's 4 to 5. Or like someone else in the comments said, 500 to win, whatever your budget is. That money spins too. I don't, and it pays for the other wagers that you make. It pays for the other $500 wagers that you make on horses that are 6 to 1. And I don't think you need to do time.
It's the gambling personality thing. I'm not going to tell Larry, oh, you have to bet a horse like that.
But just don't.
Yeah, I would say don't say you can't.
Yeah, just don't say you can't. Now, if Larry looked at that race differently, then that's okay too. If Larry looked at it and said, I don't need that horse, or I don't trust that horse, then absolutely you can't. But if you look at a horse and say, this horse is probably going to gallop and run off the screen, but I'm not taking a 4 to 5 shot, I think that's a mistake.
I think it's a mistake in cash betting, JK, but I do think there's something about mythical format contests where people who do reflexively try to beat favorites can sometimes have an advantage over somebody who bets a lot of money on a day-to-day basis and can't get off same horses, just because there can be in a mythical money contest, depending on the rules, and there's a lot of ifs and buts here, but there is something to be said. I mean, you look at some of the people who have the most success in mythical money play, and it's they might think more like Larry than we do when it comes to a horse like that. And it's handicapping personalities. It's finding the right game to match your personality. I'm not a guy who comes up with a lot of cap horses, and for me, betting cash much more than tournaments, it's because the strike rate is so low, that obviously I'll bet them when I like them, but I might not like one for 2 weeks, and you have to factor that in too. But somebody who's really training their eye and that's all they're looking for is that kind of chaos, they're going to have a huge advantage over me in a mythical contest, and I might have a huge advantage over them in a live bankroll contest because I understand you can win those betting 4 to 5 shots and 2 to 1 shots. This has been proven year after year after year at the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. What do you think of that?
Yeah, but I just think that there's no. I think the point I'm trying to make, whether it's, and I think it goes well with the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge as well too. There's no right or wrong way to play it, and I challenge people to not set rules for yourself because you could pass up on an opportunity in which the way that it all lays out could tell you something different, right? I mean, if let's imagine if Drew Coatney had a rule that he subscribed to that he would never bet an odds-on horse in a live money contest. It would have cost him $500,000. You can't.
We got a Paul Matisse shout out in the comments here. We always like that. I've never heard Paul say this, but it's a great line. No value in a losing ticket. I mean, it's complicated, but there certainly is that idea of, we've talked about it on the shows. I think Matt Miller quoted me in a better way of thinking. Matt's going to come by in the second hour as well for a little bit of fun. But that idea of a value loser, as opposed to the value you can find at the lower end of the odds spectrum is enhanced with the idea that your strike rate is just going to be so much higher. Oh, Chris has a point. I wasn't talking about this contest, by the way, when I was talking about the mythical money contest where those outsized long shots are so valuable. I was talking about contests like the qualifier on Saturday, for example, right? Where you're going to be 1 in 70. Like, I'm at a disadvantage in there because I think I'm too logical, if
chaos doesn't happen and then it doesn't, then you have a shot.
See, for sure. I'm not saying I'm dead money.
No, but it doesn't always
money, but I'm saying I'd probably do better if I was allergic to favorites in that particular format. I believe that. I never played in that many of them, right? Because from covering than me.
Yeah, but and there's no one more than me is more, you know what I mean? Is no one more than me is more of a chalk player, So and I've done fine in those. Just the right day. There's the wrong day, I've got no shot.
Right. That's part of it too. Oh, you helped out Carolyn there. Not too bad, turning a 4 to 5 into a 4 to 1 with those ideas. So yeah, this is great. We love all the comments. Thank you, Larry, for the nice words too in the comments. Appreciate that. Let us know. Hit us up with some questions. Let us roll with that. Jonathon, I'm going to probably kick you out in about 7 to 10 minutes. Does that work for you? We got some other guests coming through. We can take a look at the leaderboard. But yeah, so let's prioritize questions for JK for the next few minutes or so. And if not, I'll just ask you some questions, and then we'll let you go on about your business. I know you're picking up a lot of extra work. And production meeting in the middle of the show. I'm interested in this top 10. Doing a top 10 Breeders' Cup list as both YouTube and audio content, maybe a shorter, like sit in the middle, maybe like a 15 to 20 minute thing that we can use as audio and also pop up on video. You have some horses in mind you want to talk about for that already? We're not going to do that show now, but just pre-production for it.
Yeah, we got some ideas. I think there's some horses that are exciting. But I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, no, I sent you a starter list that has about 7 of them on there that we can chat about that I think will get your brain working a little bit. So check that out when you can. But there'll be some fun ones. There's already some exciting races right around the corner.
No doubt. Chris, you are welcome to write that blog. Love having you over at inthemoneypodcast.com, which is to put in a cheap plug because it came up organically. I think that, look, our web traffic is terrific and it's really built over the last few years, but I still think it's underrated given the quality people we have putting out free daily information on there, picks, horses to watch, etc., etc. Make sure you check out inthemoneypodcast.com, and you'll read Chris, among others, and their thoughts. And I don't hate the idea of it. It's not going to be a true wiki, but I love the idea of other listeners and viewers getting involved in contributing content. Obviously we got a high standard over there, but I'm an editor. I'll help you too get stuff together, develop an idea, and we'd love to have you. So again, reach out to me, the contact page over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Craig, let's check out this leaderboard. All right, Chris Andrews still in first place. Jason Phillips, Michael Domable, Jeff Andree with that double entry. Still looking pretty good. Maybe a chance to pick up some double tour points this week. Mike Saletta trying to do same. Justin Christine, Dan Brockman, Jonathan Cummings, Wayne Tam. It's Piers. I'm almost sure it's David Piers, by the way. It came to me properly that time. I almost said Piers again and was going to be mad at myself. Anyway, that makes no sense if you weren't watching earlier in the show. But there is David Piers down at 18th, now in a virtual tie. 50 cents difference than the man in black, James Henry. Handicapping contests, JK, what for you, obviously I don't want to open the whole can of worms here, but for you, you don't spend a lot of time and energy qualifying for the BCBC. Is that just because you've decided it's such a good opportunity that you're happy enough just putting up the money and you're going to play and you don't want to end up spending, the time and energy to maybe break even on going through the qualifying process, et cetera? Or am I underselling your interest in playing in qualifiers?
No, it's more of like a time thing. It's, my Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays are a little bit busier than they used to be. So I used to have a lot more time to focus on them. But being on air, it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Sure.
But
it's like what Alexa was saying. Alexa was saying it too, working for ABR, the work that I do, you got to use your brain in very different ways, if you want to do the best you can on air. It's very hard to be like doing that type of gambling at the same time.
Yeah. And then playing in some of the live, Keeneland contest, stuff like that. That stuff's easy. You know what I mean? Like I like to play in those, the grade 1 gamble and the fall contest that have BCBC seats. So if you snag one like that, but yeah, I just because of the way my days go now and timing has kept me off of playing in these online contests.
What is your schedule coming up for this weekend on America's Day at the Races on Fox?
Yeah, I think I'm on Saturday and Sunday. Like Saturday, I think from 3 to 6. I haven't seen my Sunday schedule yet. They usually wait until they draw to kind of let us know who's where. But Saturday and Sunday, and then the 5th, 6th, and 7th. I'm actually not working on New Year's on the 4th of July.
We did this so wrong, our theater schedule, when we're in London, JK, and we only realized it after the fact. We're going to see Hamilton on July 3rd, and we're going to see Richard III on July 4th. How much cooler would it have been if we'd seen Richard III on the 3rd and Hamilton on July 4th? I don't know how we missed this trick.
Yes, seems like poor planning.
Fair enough. There was one other question that popped in my head. Oh, all right. This could have a slightly depressing for me and the audience answer. But when Saratoga begins, are we going to lose you every week to Fox, or are you going to have weeks where you're on early and could still potentially come on and join us? You'll be, obviously at Saratoga, there's a lot going on. Maybe you don't do the whole show, but, maybe we could get you for some of it, or at least do pre-tapes or something with you. But I'm just curious if you have any sense. I feel like the last couple of years, once Saratoga started, your availability was more limited.
No, we'll see. We'll see what's up with the Thursdays. I'm not sure for sure. The schedule is basically weekly, so we'll see. I'm sure there'll be some Thursdays I'll be around.
Excellent. Larry, we're actually going to post a whole separate video about the Stephen Foster. So if you subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel, which I highly recommend that everyone does, you can watch the video in full. But the TLDR or TLDW in this case is JK made a very compelling case for disarm in there. And Yeah, that's the short answer. I'll let you watch the video to see all of the details. So that should be good. We've got a guy in the green room. Speaking of the Hawthorne Invitational, but JK, we'll let you go first. Ooh, I like the fireworks. Speaking of July 4th, don't white knuckle the debate too much. I would consider skipping it entirely. That might be my advice. But if you have to watch, stay safe. That's it for JK. We will bring in our next guest, a man who, as I mentioned, competing in that Hawthorne Invitational, and also the author of a new book, A Better Way of Thinking. He will have some thoughts on these type of gambling questions we've been talking about. Feel free to pop those into the comments. I speak of Matt Miller. Matt, how are things?
I'm doing great. I just went for a little afternoon run. The cicadas are way on the decline at this point, so it's not a big deal to be going out midday. The weather's perfect. So I'll confess that I haven't watched the first half of the show. I just kind of rushed from the shower to get here, but I'm looking at the leaderboard and I'll catch up quickly.
That's good. Yeah, you'll be able to catch the main storylines. We do have some players who've done well in the first two games, doing well again. We've seen this phenomenon in contests before, where somebody sort of catches a heater and rocks and rolls. You did have maybe the most disgusting and entertaining cicada story that I've ever heard. I don't know if there's a slightly cleaner version you want to tell to the audience.
Which one was it? I don't even know.
You were basically, the version of it I remember was basically one flying into your mouth, and you thought that was disgusting until you found the one in your pants.
No, it was the one that went. These things are not. They mean no harm. They're just flying around, kind of clueless. One got wedged between my glasses and my eye, and I don't care how not squeamish you are. Those are big. Those things weigh about the amount of a quarter. The wings are pretty big, and that thing flapping around in there. I mean, I can't believe I didn't chuck my glasses across the street. That was a lot of self-control it took.
That's impressive. You didn't smash them to smithereens. It's cicada summer in Chicago. But speaking of things happening in Chicago this summer, Hawthorne Invitational. We're going to be talking about it a little bit more, I think pretty soon, actually. I may kick you to the green room for a minute when Emily Glicksman joins us today, Matt. But I know this is an event you're excited about. Have you played in it before?
I've played in it once before. It was awesome. That was the year that Eddie Olczyk was it was just the most surreal scene. Some 75-1 shot is winning the race by a fair amount. And as they start heading down the stretch, it's clear no one's coming. And you know how these tournaments go, that everyone's kind of cheering for their horses. And very slowly, everyone just shut up, except for one guy. And Eddie Olczyk is the only person there, cheering on very appropriately. And everyone else is just looking at him like, you have that thing? I mean, it was just, the room was stunned. No one could believe it. He earned it. I mean, and that wasn't making fun of myself. That wasn't a quick pick. That was an actual selection. So hats off to him. It was a great tournament, and it has a little bit of an NHC feel in terms of there just being so many people that that you're excited to go see. So from that aspect, the social part for me is quite fun.
Yeah, it's an impressive roster. Dakota Schultz from over there sent me the rundown of like the number of different champions that are there. I'll dig that up. Folks can watch along, which is going to be very fun to do through the Hawthorne YouTube channel. We'll encourage them to check that out. I'm going to try to support that on social media if I can as well. And we'll tell you where you can, follow along live, and then also hopefully go back and get to the and get to the replay if you can't see it there. So here it is. 8 NHC winners, 7 NTRA Hall of Famers, 3 BCBC winners, 2 Pegasus Challenge winners, the current NHC Tour leader, and the current second place. I mean, this is a terrific list of players in this invitational. And the other, one of the other BCBC winners, Matt. I assume you and Brad Anderson have some plans for hanging out after the races, given your shared history, as you detail in your book, A Better Way of Thinking.
This may be too personal for the broader audience, but you should know he chose the upstairs guest bedroom instead of the bunk beds. He's gonna
That
be,
is very much of an inside joke, but one that I appreciate. I was very happy in the bunk beds downstairs because there was no danger of making any noise, and I know that doesn't go over well in your house.
I would have chosen that myself. The idea of getting a floor to myself, but Brad's going to be staying with me for a couple nights. We're going to do just like you did, a nice family dinner, and the other night will be, I think, 8 or so of us from the tournament going out. It's funny. I mean, just to give the group a sense of how social this is, there was another group of something like 8 people, and we're trying to figure out, is 16 people too many to get together for dinner? I mean, it's that many people that are friends that want to hang with each other.
That's great.
And that's just one little subset of the group. So
that's terrific.
Yeah, Brad's going to be there. It's a super impressive list. I'd say the only thing about it that gets your head scratching a little bit is I could give you a couple names that aren't on it. Marshall isn't able to make it, for example, and say, "Oh my gosh, well, Marshall Graham surely belongs on that list." So
he was invited, certainly.
He was definitely invited. So the list itself is amazing. Yeah, there's definitely some others out there that haven't, that couldn't make the trip, whatever. So I don't know that this is a complete who's who, but it's a pretty intimidating list of people.
It's a great list of players, looking up and down and just seeing how many people I know. Peter Bear being the other BCBC champion who won in 2013, which I covered in the pages of Daily Racing Form, to give them another shout out. One thing I thought was cool about this year's Hawthorne contest was the connection with your book, A Better Way of Thinking, which people can learn much more about over at your website, abetterwayofThinking.com. But what's going on with the book? What were you able to arrange with them?
So Hawthorne's always been supportive, not just of me, but of the horse player in general. So when I say I've got a book, they're quick to say, let's put you on the live stream. We'll get you interviewed. I had a conversation with Dakota the last couple of days. I'm humbled to say it. I mean, it's given the list of people that are going to be there. I don't remember the exact specifics, but they're going to be giving away a copy of the book as one of the prizes for, the top 10 in this thing or whatever. They're also going to be giving it away essentially at cost. So I'm not exactly sure how the economics are going to work, but we're going to get a severe discount to people such that it's essentially free or just the cost of shipping. So we're going to take care of the people at the Invitational. It's a nice way to get some promotion. Frankly, I'm just honored that group of people might even be interested to read it. It's a heck of a group of people.
That's a great point. But as we've seen already, Matt, there is a benefit to putting the book in the hands of people who have a respected opinion and are going to talk about it to others. So I think it's a great investment and a cool thing you were able to work out with our pals over there. I was asking Jonathon earlier in the show about his impressions of watching Ascot from the USA, with especially the tie-ins with the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge races. Did you have any opportunity to watch?
I did, and I'll confess, I'm not the biggest fan of international racing. I'm kind of modestly interested. I will say, when my buddy Howard comes back with a cool-looking pen that says Ascot, yeah, that's my new crossword puzzle pen. That's a really cool thing to have. His stories were fantastic. The coverage on television, look, I have the world to say for TVG, for Fox Sports. There is something about when they really want to put on a show with super high production value, like the Kentucky Derby, like Ascot. They really made it beautiful and very pleasant to watch. So for races that I don't know a ton about, I'm not super sophisticated on the international scene. It's just like watching Olympic events that you don't know much about. You're pretty drawn in either way. They make it a really good story and a really good show.
Big NBC did a great job with that Saturday show. From what I saw during the week, it was us. It was Sky Sports Racing on Peacock, which was really fun. I got to get my mug on there several times and gave some at least halfway decent opinions. Could have used Gabaldon to hang on there in the Windsor Castle, but hey, you can't win them all. It was a good effort at 16-1. I don't know what the toe price was in the end, but those are interesting races to bet, I think. And I can't wait. At some point, we have to get some sort of contest action, some sort of Breeders' Cup betting challenge link through the World Pool. I don't know if you were looking at the pool sizes, Matt, but there's some damage somebody like you could do just with as good as you are at interpreting other people's opinions and also just reading market signal, because they're just awash in money, the pools.
It is clear. Our mutual friend Howard Kravitz has, his equivalent of Rob Dove. He's got Davy Lane. And whether I'm listening to Rob or I'm listening to Davy, but it was Davy in particular with this trip, I'm just amazed at the amount of insider information. This would be so profoundly illegal if these were stocks in the United States securities markets. And somehow it's okay for trainers to say, this is the one I like, this one's just getting prepped, and for them to say that to only a few people. So it
still manages to make its way to the market in surprising fashion.
And so in the end, that's the big difference between that and insider trading, because when people are trading, they are getting the lower price. Maybe fixed odds makes that a little different, but in this case, the person that knows nothing could look at the tote board and interpret that something is going on here. And, it's not that I like to make my betting style that of a conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, there's some information to be gleaned if you're paying attention. And I totally agree with you. The other great thing about these pools, you can bet without even thinking about the pool size. It can accommodate whatever you want to do. So just be yourself. You don't have to worry about crushing your own odds or any of that kind of stuff. It's kind of nice.
I love that. Let's talk about your strategy for today's Horse Player Happy Hour. What did you, famously, I'll let you, those new people here, recap your quote unquote strategy when it comes to these games and tell us which one you took today.
I will. And by the end of the season, I think I will have sufficiently discredited myself in front of this group that all of these strategies will be considered bad. I'm trying to clean up the language. So week one was, I think it was pure quick picks. And the only thing I would do with my 3 entries different than hitting that button that says random picks is if it gave me a 20-to-1 shot, I would just find some random other horse and go with that. Last week, and by the way, that was good enough midway through the contest to be leading, although I ended up finishing predictably maybe at the top third with my best of the entries. Last week, I picked some cool number patterns and color patterns and went with those. Nothing to do with the horses themselves. Again, at some point during the day, found myself in a good spot. And again, predictably regressed to the mean. Okay, today I actually tried employing some level of actual strategy. And I think I'm in dead last place with all 3 entries. So I am absolutely going back to randomness and stupidity next week. But my thinking this week was this. I saw a tweet this morning. I don't remember who it was, and I'm not making fun of the person. I'm sure what they said was well intended, that there were going to be tons and tons of scratches all over the place at these contest races. So instead of doing quick picks, I actually went in and before the scratches, got my picks in so that essentially, if I didn't pick the favorite, maybe I picked a horse that would become the favorite by virtue of scratches or whatnot.
Yeah, that's actually quite clever.
And I played all 3 entries identically, taking advantage of that strategy that we talked about last week, where you can really crush the playoffs in this format if you can get a winner, with that. So I picked, it turns out there weren't that many scratches. It turns out there's been plenty of nice price horses winning all day. And so as I'm looking, I think I'm in tied for 130th or whatever. It still goes to a good cause. It's still fun to do. I couldn't have more nice things to say about this, but it also has a way of making you look awfully stupid sometimes.
Well, we'll get you'll have your day for sure. When you think about this, which outcome? I mean, I'm going to take a wild guess. You're hoping to get into the playoffs and then try to make some magic happen there. Is that more the philosophy than anything else? Whether that's through consistent finishes on tour or just getting up into the exacta 1 week.
That's it. And I do believe just getting into the playoffs, everybody's got a shot. Everybody's got a shot at that point. There are some people, if they have multiple entries, that might have a better shot. But at the end of the day, just getting to the playoffs is a nice goal. A secondary goal, and it comes automatic with some of this stuff, is that you do win entries to the weekend Saturday tournament. And so the very first thing I do, if I do happen to qualify in a given week here for that, the first thing I do is go buy a second entry in that. And okay, believe it or not, I still do quick picks and other stupid stuff in those, and those strategies do well, if you can believe it. But right, this is a nice way to get into a tournament that then has that more substantial prize. And so people shouldn't lose sight of that. You're not just playing for the playoffs, you're also playing for Saturday.
We were talking earlier about different strategies based on where you need to finish. And the specific, I can't speak all of a sudden, and I'm not even drunk. The specific example we were talking about was what you need to do well in a contest where it's 1 in 70 make it, versus something like the playoffs here, where you just have to be in the top 50% every week, 80 to 40, 40 to 20, 20 to 10. Maybe putting aside for a second the quick pick stuff, unless there's a way to tie it in elegantly, how would your approach be different when the prize is 1 in 70 than when the prize is 40 in 80?
I'll just put it in different terms. The extent to which you need to distinguish yourself is wildly different in the two cases. And so why, in the second case, would you be taking wild, crazy, lunatic actions when you don't need to do that? You pretty much just need to stick with the lead pack, whatever that is, right? And that lead pack can be 20 people. And if 20 people get off with hitting a couple favorites right away and manage to get a little bit of separation, that's good enough for the purposes of making the playoffs. But if you're trying to win this thing, you're doing everything you can to get away from the pack, to the point that I would be taking horses that I actually don't like, because if I don't like them, the rest of the public doesn't, which now all of a sudden means maybe I actually do. And so I go back and take a look at. So first starters are a perfect example of that, where those aren't horses I typically play in real life, cash betting. But for purposes of a tournament like this, the upside there is substantial. And given the number of people that don't like to play first starters, okay, there may be an edge to those sorts of picks.
I think that's a very smart way of looking at it. We were talking before about the difference between the ability to come up with cap horses and the ability to pick winners more consistently. Which of those things takes more skill, in your opinion? I'm asking in a very vague way. There's probably a better way to ask it, but I think you know where I'm going with it.
It takes more skill to actually pick cap winners. But that's a skill that I find to be, in my life, virtually worthless, and that I don't care to hone at all. That's the strike rate is so infrequent, despite your skill level, that for me, it's just not enough action. It's too many highs and lows. It's too much time between wins. But there's no question. Oh, that's hysterical. Thank you for putting that up. That was the favored horse, yes, because I did an experiment. The minute that other race happened.
My bad, by the way, on not noticing that the race was going on.
Well, I think it was somewhat of a foregone conclusion with two horses, but
exactly. It was, if you're gonna miss a race all season, the match race with the 1 to 5 shot is probably the one to miss. But
But you know me and how I play. I was dying to see, with the second half of a daily double only being 2 horses. Right, I put my money where my mouth is, and I bet the shit out of that daily double. and the winner in the race before. It wasn't a brilliant pick. It was only 4-5, but I was dying to see which one would end up paying better. I think it was to the penny identical. I'm almost sure of it, which is maybe in and of itself a little strange if the takeout rate isn't exactly the same.
It shouldn't be to the penny the same. Honestly, that is weird, but it's
I think I'd have to go look. I mean, it was only a second I could see that screen, but so the point to viewers is, it's funny how we just stumbled upon this point. Don't assume you're getting paid more in a daily double. I believe that double paid the same as what the horse paid in the prior race to win. And so these are two separate pools. You have to look at probables. And I was actually prepared to make a massive double bet as I was watching the probables. If the probable went up from 1 to 2, that would have evidenced a massive underlay, in my opinion, and I would have pounded the thing. But as it worked out, the double was probably the wrong play. I don't really think you got paid for the risk you took. It wasn't a lot of risk, obviously. But if the win price from the prior race was the same as the double price, you didn't get paid for the risk you took in the double.
No, clearly that's bad. JK and I had a contest misadventure years ago over betting a mid-card double at Santa Anita, where we just overbet the pot, and our double return, I think it was going to be less than the win price of the second horse. And it was interesting. The second horse was probably a Baffert favorite, but then ended up being like dead on the board.
Well,
our theory was,
let me make a different quick. I'm going to make a different quick point, and then you get to yours.
Yeah,
it's actually interesting though what we just talked about. This was at Belmont. If this was a teeny tiny track with teeny tiny betting pools, I would not be disappointed with this result, because it is often the case that as a larger bettor, I struggle with ways to get my money in without hurting my own odds. And so I actually might have been willing to take those odds in a double, given that if I had bet the money in the win pool, I might have hurt my odds if I was at a smaller track. I hope that makes sense.
Jason says that the double was exactly half of the prior race win. Is that possible?
I don't know. Are we syncing up units, $1 to $2?
Yeah, I think we're not syncing up units there. I think it was the same. It wouldn't be. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Jason must be talking about the $2, $1. So yeah, he's saying the same thing as you.
Which exactly proves what I said. If we're right about it being a unit issue, that it was exactly the same.
Yeah, we had this theory. We knew we were risking overbetting the pot, but we had this theory that the computers would correct it and give us fair value. And for whatever reason there, it didn't happen. But it was interesting because the Baffert favorite, or whoever it was, in the second leg ended up being cold on the board and not running well. So it was almost like there was you're talking about inside information. It was a bit of a they knew situation where but anyway, it didn't matter, but it was deeply embarrassing to notice that the win price in the second half of the double was going to pay more than the double. And it's a reason you have to be aware of pool size and these things in a BCB. If you're not a BCBC so much because the pools are so liquid, but if you're playing in a live bankroll contest and you want to use the type of strategies Matt Miller espouses in a better way of thinking, you got to be real smart about it, or you can get burned.
Yeah. And the point about betting doubles, there's another point to be made here. By being alive in the double pool and by seeing the betting action going into the next race, you actually got tipped off to the fact that that was a cold horse, that in a way that you might not have been. And by having your money in the form of a double, you aren't locked in. You can take further action. That isn't hedging. That's taking in new information and saying, shit, this horse is cold on the board. I thought this was going to be different. It's clear I'm on the wrong horse. I do that all the time. And I flip horses after seeing how everything plays out. So by betting doubles, you give yourself a chance for a second look at that second race.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and not the way that most people think about things. Tell me about some more of the book experience lately. I know you've had some really interesting conversations with readers, and you really haven't been inviting people, whether it's in the context of here, where we're both happy to answer whatever questions you have here in real time, but also just in people who've contacted you through your website, Matt. I'm just curious if you've had any other notable interactions. And then we do have our next guest in the green room. So we're going to, I'll put you, we're going to put you in timeout for a minute, but answer this one first.
All right, I'll give you just a quick answer. I wasn't at all ready for the number of people that I didn't know to feel some level of connection to me. Believe it or not, it's more the life stories and the life lessons than the gambling stuff. Although some of the Grandpa Mike stuff, I think, connects with a bunch. But I've had a whole bunch of people reach for me just wanting to share stories and connect. And I've absolutely loved those conversations. And I mean, maybe at some point it'll become too much, but whether we're at the Hawthorne contest or at Saratoga coming up, or whether you DM me on Twitter and say, do you want to talk or could I ask you a question? I've loved all that interaction thus far. People have been so nice, no haters. So it's all fun so far.
Hey, don't make any mistakes here, Matt. You're nobody till somebody loathes you. So you want those haters. You need that too. You gave me the perfect lead in to the next guest. So we're going to pop you in timeout for a moment. I'm going to bring in my next guest, who I'm going to introduce formally in a second, but we're going to do the old production meeting in the middle of the show here thing for a second, Emily. So I'm going to just ask you a favor that I should have prepped you for before you came on air. When we're done with our little segment here that we're going to do me a favor and leave streaming. We're going to put you in the back in the green room. You can turn off your camera. You can go about your business, but leave it open for 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so. So we're recording locally and uploading to a cloud, and then you'll just look that much better in our YouTube show. Not that you need help, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've done this before. I'm familiar with the drill, and
Excellent.
you know, it was. Are you gonna draw me back out again?
No, you're coming. I'm
Okay.
gonna give me a second. I'll introduce you properly, and then we'll go on with it. BCBC Diaries is back. Special episode number 2, where we are looking at female participation in contests, specifically talking to some players who I know are very interested in competing in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. And this one ties in doubly well because this weekend we've got the Hawthorne Invitational coming up. You can watch it and play along on the Hawthorne YouTube channel. And one of the faces you'll be seeing there is our next guest. She's Emily Glicksman. Emily, how are things?
Things are great. I'm extremely looking forward to this weekend. This is my 3rd time co-hosting the Hawthorne Invitational. And each year it's been a little bit different, but mostly the same. And in the tournament scene, it's so great when you're ever in a live environment because everybody comes out, you get to see everybody, see your friends, root for everybody, root for yourself, you know, all the good things that come with tournament play. So I'm always looking forward to it, excited as ever.
And the roster of players is tremendous. You got the current 1 and 2 on the NHC Tour, 3 past BCBC champions, something like 5 NHC champions, 7 NTRA Hall of Famers. It must just be fun to be in a room with all that handicapping talent where it's all so concentrated. I imagine that's one of the things that makes the event special.
Yeah, and we've had this question in the past about it being an invitational, and it truly is an invitational to where you are getting an invite in. And so a lot of the players are well known, and part of that just has to do with because we are doing a show and wanting people to watch. And what we've been able to kind of grow in the tournament space, and even this year, some of the things that we're going to be able to do is really talk about tournament play and tournament strategy. And so when you get some of the best tournament players in the room, you're going to be able to get some of the best information as well. And also so many players are just so kind and open with that information as well, because that's how we're able to grow. So having all those players in the room, it's just infinite knowledge. And we're going to be using the same system that the BCBC uses and a lot of the online tournaments as well, that if you're following the leaderboard at home, and you click on a player's name, you can see what their plays were for that most recent race.
Very cool.
So it's nice in that sense that, you know, for us being hosts, that we can kind of look at the plays and see how things, you know, went with the players and then ask them about it. And you just get so much information from that as well, because especially when you're doing live betting, even when things work out, there could always be feedback, right? It could be like, oh, well, I should have, you know, I was considering playing more, or, you know, I wanted to do this and key, and yeah, I did well, but I, you know, missed this here, or I wanted a little bit more. It wasn't quite my will pace. There's always this type of information that you don't really know just by looking at the scores and the leaderboard and things like that. So we're able to get that information, and that upgraded system helps as well.
I love what you're describing, because it sounds to me like hand analysis in poker, which is one of the reasons why, you know, in Matt Miller's new book, A Better Way of Thinking, he says in terms of gambling IQ, poker players are just way ahead of horse players in a lot of ways. And one of the reasons I tend to think that's true is because we don't typically get to do that same type of quote unquote hand analysis. That's what you're going to be doing on this live stream, and one of the reasons everybody should be tuning in to check it out. Now, what is the best way, Emily, to follow along on Saturday, and what time will you be on?
So I think we're going to start, we're still figuring out all the mandatory races, but it looks like right now that we're going to start at 1:30 Central Time. Hold on, let me turn off the Churchill volume here. I hear Travis Stone in the background. Where did he come from? 1:30 is where we're going to go. The live stream will be on the Hawthorne channel, but we're also going to try to use our socials as much as possible. So if you're following Hawthorne on any of that, it'll be on YouTube channel for sure, on there, as well as X and all the other platforms. And it's also like your show here, it'll be recorded, so you can go back and watch in real time. But it's always fun to watch live as well, especially with the tournament, because you're able to watch the races in real time, and it makes it a little bit more interesting. And we're going to really try to keep it flowing with each play, which is going to be a challenge. It's something we haven't really tried to do last year, just, you know, kind of figuring things out, but we're gonna push ourselves to kind of go that direction this year with talking with players.
I want to talk to you about your ambitions and role as a player. When I met you, however many years ago, when you were part of my degenerate summer camp up in Saratoga, as well as a fine dog sitter for the late great handicapping Labrador Muggsy. You was something you were very interested in, was getting more involved in contests. You've obviously taken the route now. You're working for Hawthorne. You're doing more on the TV side, but I know you, and I bet it hasn't really thwarted those ambitions of participating in a Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge champion. My question to you is, when are we going to see a female BCBC champion, and could it be as soon as this year?
I mean, I don't see why not. I think, you know, following the tournaments, doing coverage, even doing the BCBC coverage, I mean, the women are playing as well, you know, and it's just, why not? I mean, it's not, I don't think there's any curve. It's more, you know, there's not as many female players, but they're as good. Yep. Yeah, they're as good. So it's just a matter of being there. I mean, Christy Moore was right there last year. And, you know, it's just like, it's one hit here or there. One opinion here or there to make a difference in play. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that I got started playing tournaments. I mean, really, that is where I started, and that I'm self-taught and really moved up through tournament and met people like yourself, and kind of positioning myself in different places, learning the game, and one thing led into another. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I moved out here to Chicago, I didn't move out here with the Hawthorne job. So part of the reason was, like, being in Arizona, there wasn't as many live tournaments, right? And there wasn't as many in Vegas anymore. So I'm like, oh, Chicago would be great. You know, once, you know, the end of COVID and everything, I'll be able to play these live tournaments. And now that I'm a Hawthorne employee, that's X'd out, right? I had to sign the disclosure, but it's a good trade, you know, it's a good trade. But you know, every time that I'm doing it, whether it's at the NHC or our tournaments here at Hawthorne, I so have the bug. I love it. I think tournament play is just awesome. It's such a good growth area for the game, especially these type of tournaments that are, you know, BCBC, our tournaments at Hawthorne, because it's hand in hand with betting, and which is the everyday play. Now you're just have that added that you're playing against other people, which drives people because they're just kind of naturally competitive and like games and like to see a leaderboard and their name either up or down or wherever. And all those things are great. So I still have the bug, I still have playing, and that's, hopefully my passion comes through and doing all this and for the show and for the game as a whole.
Definitely it does. The enthusiasm, the knowledge are right there. So obviously you can't play in the Hawthorne ones, which is a bummer, of course, because all the prize money is added to the pot, making these tournaments at Hawthorne even more appealing, with these Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seats on the line. But do you have ambitions to potentially get in the BCBC another way, or is our tournaments really backseat at this point with doing all the stuff in media?
It's always there, and it's just a matter of like, where am I going to qualify? When am I going to qualify? Really just putting myself in that position in order to do so, or just buying in at this point, and not having anything else going on that weekend, which is always a different thing, because, if you're in it, at least for me, if I'm in it, like that's what I'm going to be doing the whole time. And, my partner at Optics, John Doyle, he plays, so I'm, rooting for him, and obviously everybody here in Chicago that comes out and playing the Hawthorne tournaments. But, the thing that you mentioned about the prizes, and I do want to mention that with the Invitational, there are prizes, obviously, that to the NHC, as well as the BCBC, Pegasus, the Keeneland Fall Classic, and our contest here at Hawthorne, as well as $10,000 cash to the winner. But there's also we're actually running three tournaments that weekend. So we have a single one day, both on Saturday and Sunday, which is a $500 buy-in. You don't need an invite. You just have to be here in the Chicago area. It's a $500 bankroll. There's no entry fee. Play whatever you want. The tracks that are running. And that also on Saturday, we are going to give away 2 seats into the Invitational. So there is an opportunity for 2 people that haven't been invited that can get in. And a Saturday will also include 2 NHC seats, and then entry to some of the Hawthorne tournaments later in Thanksgiving. On Sunday, we'll have 3 entries to the NHC, 1 to the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and 1 to the Keeneland Fall Classic. So there's a lot of great prizes. And then again, it's $500 bankroll. It's what you'd be playing, any day. So it's just taking a shot to get that extra equity.
I love that. What would it mean to you if you were to become the first female player to win the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge?
I mean, probably the same as everybody else, just the prize money. I honestly, like that wouldn't be it for me, especially in this game. When my first kind of love for horses was riding, being younger. And one of the things that just kind of, I don't know where it came from, whether it was like a trainer, my mom, or whatever, just really talked about the egalitarian aspect of equestrian sports, that men and women compete on the same stage, whether it's in the Olympics or whatever. And so it was just always kind of an equal playing field. And I still feel that. So even when there's like this conversation of like, oh, the women, I'm kind of like, we're all doing it. And obviously I'm rooting for all the women. And, but yeah, for me personally, it would just be, I don't know, maybe I'll go on a vacation and not have to save up for it.
I love that. Yeah, I think you get a couple of vacations out of a BCBC win. Emily, thank you so much. We'll be watching you. Again, you can check out the replay if you don't see it live of the Hawthorne Invitational on their YouTube channel. And we'll be talking soon.
Awesome. Good to see you, Pete. Thanks for inviting me on. And Matt, I see you as well. Good to see you as well. I'll see you this weekend.
He's hiding in the green room. We'll bring him back. Emily, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Good stuff. Good stuff. We do have another scheduled guest, but she's MIA. I'm going to try to find her and see if we can bring her in as we continue our BCBC Diaries little mashup segment of Horseplayer Happy Hour. But yeah, Matt, you're part of that tight-knit Chicago contingency, and you were speaking before about the people you're most immediately friends with. But I mean, you must be impressed with your fellow city residents. I mean, you guys, there's other jurisdictions that have done really well. I mean, you think of the Canadians and the NHC and some of the amazing work they've done, but Chicagoland has a pretty tight hold on the tournament world. Is there anything to account for that, in your opinion?
No, random. So look, take me out of the picture because I've only been around for a little while. I remember when you and I met, Dave Gutfriend was from here. Garrett Skiba was from here. I mean, all these big names, and Frank Mastari, names. I wasn't plugged into the Chicagoland horse racing circuit that way, so I didn't really know these people. It's something that was nice, actually, getting to meet you and then getting to meet these people. It was right after Scott Coles had just won his NHC.
Sure, that's another one. Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. But look, we're the third largest city in the country. I guess, we can get someone to run some statistical model to figure out how statistically relevant this is. But it's pretty crazy. And that then extends, look, to Brad was a Chicago guy when he won. I'm still going to consider Drew a Chicago guy to some extent. And so, yeah, it's been a nice long run for the city. It's cool. And it's a tight-knit group. So we're all going to go see each other for the most part this coming weekend.
Scott, another one who will be participating. So that should be fun. And that's cool about the other contests as well. Will you be participating in those, or will your focus be on the Invitational?
I will absolutely be doing the other ones. The question, look, I like to do a lot of experimentation at this point, and you know that. I think the Saturday contest is just going to be played as, a typical style of contest for me. I am debating on Sunday, trying to find a way to leverage one of those two contests against the other. If I can find some commonality of races or something like that, there would seem to be some opportunity to give yourself, right? And these are concepts we get to in the book, but you have some opportunity by sacrificing essentially one entry to benefit another. And that's not, you can't collude with yourself. You certainly can't collude with yourself across tournaments or anything like that. So I don't know. I'll have to see what the races bring. But right away, I can tell you, come Sunday, I will be looking for one of those races that has 3-to-1 favorites and then a bunch of crazy long shots. I could absolutely picture firing off 3 different entries in 3 completely different directions, knowing that one of them is super well situated.
I do want to underline what you said, and I think I said it wrong one time earlier in the show. I know we said it right. I think I said it right both times with Emily, but Sunday is the Invitational. That's when you want to be tuning in to watch live on the Hawthorne YouTube channel. And that is so cool about those wild card entries to the Invitational being part of those Saturday games. So anyway, just wanted to underline that. Just about post time here at Belmont at the Big A. I was super boring in my look at this race. I felt like the 16 looked to be the main speed and might have this field in an advantageous position. Curious what you did in your entries, Matt, as we approach this final race of this week's HorsePlayer Happy Hour.
I think, I got to look. I mean, I'm so far down at the bottom, I don't even remember.
It doesn't. Are you telling me it doesn't matter at this point?
It doesn't matter. But strategically, it was going to be a lower price horse. I'm actually looking at the leaderboard, and there's something interesting. So Christopher Andrews in first has the 16. So he's got this pretty much locked up. He does have it locked up if the horse wins.
Yes.
But there's strangely 3 entries right beneath him, 2 of which are from the same person, Jeff Van Dree, that have the 3 horse. So that 3 horse can really mess some stuff up.
Well,
and
we'd have a new leader on the tour. I'll say that 109. Well, that might actually be, no, I think that would be a new leader on the tour, because that would be 190 points in one fell swoop right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bunch. Michael Domobile, we all know him. He's in with the shot with the 1. The 14 horse at 15-to-1 gives Michael Saletta a great chance. Jonathon Cummings, I'm not sure, could make up enough ground to get to the top 2, but certainly for purposes of playoffs, gosh, as you look down the leaderboard, I think most people in this tournament, other than me, probably still feel like they have a shot.
It's interesting. Anybody in a high up position have any of the cap type horses, the 8 or the 14 here?
Yeah, there's a bunch of 14s. Wayne Tam, Mark Wilgard, Dan Brockman. Yeah, people are firing. The 8, Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean. Sorry.
Love it. You're giving nicknames now. Or is that
Well,
actually?
that's a UFC fighter. I couldn't help it.
Oh, gotcha. There's a Sean O'Malley, or just
There's a Sean O'Malley. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. It's probably not the same guy. And I don't think Chris Andrews at the top of the leaderboard is our Chris Andrews either. Okay, we're going to go to this race. Then, Matt, I'm going to let you go. And then Wendy, who's waiting in the green room, will come on in. Wendy, do me a favor. When we're done with our segment, don't close StreamYard, okay? I want to make sure your file uploads beautifully to the cloud. A little bit of a production meeting at the beginning of the race. We usually have them in the middle of the show. Now we have one at the beginning of the race. And Craig, I think, is in here in tune and will be able to send us now to the mellifluous tones of Chris Griffin.
And in. All set. And they're off. Dreaming of Carly has early speed, but towards the far outside, here comes the run from Inflammabelle. And Inflammabelle's got company as well with Fit as a Fiddle, who moves through at the rail. Fit as a Fiddle is now a half length in front. Right to the outside will be Inflammabelle, and at the rail is Majulu, is now a shared third. As Dreaming of Carly is still in that early mix, these four are now 5 lengths clear from Rialta, who's trying to make up some ground in strong play. The trailer, Tone of Silence, 22.35 for that pressured opening quarter mile. Fit as a Fiddle's got the lead still. It's Fit as a Fiddle. Inflammabelle in stalking position here from second and moving towards the outside. Dreaming of Carly's got to run is running 3 wide. At the rail is Majulu, who's looking for a way out. Now wants to pull on through. It's very tight here at the rail, but Majulu, if good enough, is trying to move through. And the leader at the top of the stretch is Inflammabelle. Inflammabelle is trying to put her rivals away. And here comes the run from Dreaming of Carly on the grandstand side. And here comes Dreaming of Carly making up some ground. Dreaming of Carly at 18-1. Dreaming of Carly takes it right to the favorite. Dreaming of Carly is in front. Strong play will have to be dealt with, though. Here comes strong play from strong play in the final strides. Strong play wins the finale.
That's an interesting
Dreaming
result.
of Carly, then Inflammabelle.
All right, so that 14 is still going to help on a place price for sure.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's still those are meaningful points, especially with the favorite out. So here's what's going to happen, Matt. You're going to stick around. You're going to look at this final leaderboard when it goes official. And then you're going to come back and help explain to me everything that happened. In the meantime, I'm going to welcome my last guest. We're going to do about 5 minutes, and then you're going to come back and we'll put a little bow on it. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
You can help me. You can help me find the storylines, and we'll go from there.
Deal.
You happy enough with that?
Perfect. See you soon.
All right, we'll put you back in timeout then, Matt. Thank you for being so flexible with us. Last but not least, very happy to bring in a woman who's an award-winning sports writer, who's been very active in the contest scene for a minute or two, because I had the pleasure of interviewing her in my role as the tournament editor for Daily Racing Form a couple of years back. Now, we welcome her to this latest edition of the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge Diaries. She's Wendy Long. Wendy, how are things?
Oh, pretty good. Thank you, Peter.
I wanted to ask you first and foremost a little bit about your history in the BCBC. This is a tournament I know you've participated in the past.
I have. In fact, the first time I went in the BCBC, I actually finished 5th. And that was the year Fort Larned won. And I had him all over the place. And I've been in it every year since. I've never quite duplicated that effort, but, maybe this year.
What is it about the BCBC, other than that early success, that makes it such a must-do for you?
My husband, Steve, and I, we try to go to the Breeders' Cup every year. We love the live racing. And for me, the draw of that particular contest is I do like to play the exotics. It's not just win place. You can bet tries, you can bet doubles, you can bet hooks. And I love doing that. I love finding the big long shot to plot into third to make the try pace. So it's right up my alley.
It's a great format. And in terms of the prestige, what would it mean to you if you were to become the first female winner of the BCBC? You've come pretty close.
Oh, it would be awesome. I'm a little bit win shy in terms of contests. Like, I'm one of those old campaigners that always picks up a check. But I think my form would say win shy mare. hard knocker, but doesn't get there very often. So I would love to win the BCBC.
What is your plan for qualifying, or is this one that you just know you're going to be in and you save up and buy your ticket? How do you typically make your way to this big dance?
I try not to buy my way in if I could possibly help it. I do have a partial right now. I didn't quite get the job done a few weeks back, but I earned a $5,000 partial. So I'm halfway there.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I'm still trying it. I've got some time yet. I'll get there.
Was that via horseplayers.com or a live event?
Horseplayers.com. I live up in Vancouver, Canada, and there are no live events up here. So we have to travel a long way to get to a live contest. So pretty much it's always through Horse Players.
And you've had good experiences on that site and obviously some successes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We are going to Del Mar for the Pacific Classic.
Nice.
So I'm going to do a little reconnaissance while I'm there, for November. So we'll see what happens.
There is a contest that day with a BCBC seat on the line, and you can also try to win your way into that one via horsetourneys.com. And I think that another event at Del Mar as well is going to have the ability to win seats to that. So the qualifying sounds like something that's of great interest to you when you're traveling to go to these races.
Yeah, hopefully I've qualified by the time we get to the Pacific Classic, but you got to be optimistic in this game, right?
Would you look to play a second entry, or are you a one entry person?
I used to be a one entry person, and I've since discovered playing two entries, if you can get them, is beneficial. You can use one maybe as a sacrificial lamb or take a couple of flyers. And if you get the flyers, you're off to the races, as they say. So I've discovered, even though it's a lot of administration, I actually do like having two teams if I can do it.
That's a good word. That's a good word for it. Administration, being able to figure it out. But I think you're right. In game theory terms, that's just, there's no doubt about the added value it brings. One of the things I've been curious to talk to the players on today's show about is increasing female participation in handicapping contests. Curious to know if you have any thoughts on that, and just to get a general sense of how you've been treated by the handicapping contest community.
Oh, I've always been treated very, very well. I'm actually sort of at a loss as to why more women don't go in. Like the NHC, every year I look around that room and I go, this is like 5% women participants. Why? I don't understand it, because I've been a horse player since I was about 9 years old, and I love it, and I'm very competitive. And there's a lot of little girls out there who love horses. I was one of them. And so I'm at a bit of a loss because I know a lot of women who are competitive in all sorts of things. So it's not that women don't like being competitive. I actually don't know why.
We were brainstorming earlier on the show about trying to bring even more. I think they've done it to some degree, but even more of a contest element, something that we can help stoke the fires of to the Horse Racing Women's Summit, and just trying to, promote what's great about it. You certainly be a terrific ambassador with the money you've won, and probably more importantly, I'm going to guess, the fun you've had and the friends you've made on this journey.
Absolutely. And, that's half the fun of it, especially because we do a lot of online contests. When I get to a live contest, I get to actually meet the people that I've been knocking heads with. And it's great fun to finally put a face to a name who has just beaten you, or you've just beaten them. So, that's half the fun of it for sure. And I'd be happy to help in any way if I can get more women into this, because it is a lot of fun.
That's great stuff, Wendy. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. Very excited to follow along with your journey to qualify on this BCBC Diaries show. We have our regular players we're following, but then I think we're going to have some regular guests who update us when they punch their tickets. I'd love it if you could be one of those, because obviously your energy, your passion for the game, and the success you've had, you're great. And as a sports reporter, I'm sure you can see why you'd be a good story to follow.
Well, I'd be happy to. I hope maybe we can do that soon, and that'll mean I've got my full ticket, not just a half. So hopefully that happens soon.
Keep us posted, please. For much more information on racing, going to encourage folks out there to follow the Breeders' Cup social media channels, as well as the YouTube channel where these BCBC diary shows are going to live. While you're at it, if you like horse racing, check out In the Money Media, our In the Money Media YouTube page, our website, inthemoneyplayerspodcast.com, and go ahead and subscribe to the In the Money Players Podcast wherever you get your shows. InTheMoneyPodcast.com is the URL. I think I threw a players in there. InTheMoneyPodcast.com for that. In the Money Players Podcast is the YouTube. In any case, really appreciate you. And we'll be back with more BCBC diaries soon. And I'll see you on the leaderboard.
Happy handicapping.
Great stuff. That was very fun catching up with Wendy. Matt, what can you tell us about the end of this contest? Was there a bit of a boil over on the leaderboard, or did things level out with that horse getting there?
No, things went crazy, and it's a fantastic ending and a great result for a bunch of people and a disaster for others. And that's how these pick and praise go. The first race is worth as much as the last, but you can't change strategies once you see where you're at. And so, you heard me shout out to Mike Saletta, who I'm going to be coming. By the way, Mike, I'm going to be at Villa Park, not Oak Brook. But right, look at the top two. That 14 horse paid enough to place to get, sorry for Chris Andrews, but God, what a frustration for him that 14 is just enough for two people to pass him.
The good
and
news
as you start scrolling down,
yeah.
Right, I'm just counting the number of 14s.
Yeah, it is. I can't control the scroll because it's on Craig's screen. But yeah, Mike Saletta had already had points on the tour. So that's a huge result to get that outright win. And of course, being in the exacta, punching that ticket for the playoffs. The good news for Chris is that even though this is obviously a bit disappointing, it's not all for nothing. You do, by finishing in the top 16 here, get to play in the qualifier on Saturday, and those 70 tour points could be very valuable. Great stuff. Let me read through this one more time, and then we're going to leave it here. Michael Saletta, your winner with 90-30. Wayne Tam, Christopher Andrews, Mark Wilgard, Dan Brockman, Jason Phillips, Michael Domable, Julie Leboyko, and then double tour points for Jeff Van Dree. Those could prove to be very, very valuable as the season goes on. We'll go down to 16. Jonathon Cummings, Mike Boreal, Justin Christine with another terrific result. He does such a good job for us on so many of the shows, and also on the In the Money Plus side, a place you can go to get even more racing coverage. Dennis Clark in 14th, Nathan Kaczynski in 15th, and Bob Montgomery in 16th. Great stuff. Appreciate you, Matt. Encourage people to check out your book, abetterwayofThinking.com. We're going to be back with more HorsePlayer Happy Hour next week and throughout the season. Sign up to play on horseplayers.com and join us live every Thursday from 4 to 6 Eastern. I'll be doing it from London next week before coming home, and then we'll have our opening day of Saratoga full card show. That'll be fun as well. For our friends at the Breeders' Cup, especially Justin and Haley, for producer Craig, who did a fantastic job helping us out, for JK and Wendy and Alexa and Emily. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.